How I feel things can change in economics where communities are concerned is for like-minded individuals that's from those communities to come together first. You know what I mean? It's important to not abandon the very community that helped shape and mold you. So to turn and walk away from that community is a major reason the community continues to suffer. In my community, Fifth Ward, you know, I live by example. You know, I built a recreation center. You know, we do a lot of things such as Christmas, you know, give away toys. On Thanksgiving, you know what I mean, we give away turkeys and food, feed the homeless. That's where respect really began. You know what I mean? When each of us that has been successful in that community come back and plant those kind of seeds, then we're doing our part. Here's my 3 keys to success. My first key would be my spiritual foundation. And the reason I give credit to my spiritual foundation is because I wouldn't have had, you know, the faith or the strength to endure the obstacles and different things that was before me if I didn't believe in something bigger than myself. Number 2, I would give credence to my work ethic. You know what I mean? And I say that because, you know, if you believe in something, like most believe they can do different things and don't have the work ethic to support that they believe in, then, you know, we know the end result of that. It's just a dream with no actions wrapped around it. Number 3 would be my thinking ability. And what I mean by that, I believe that I have been gifted to some extent of, you know, having enough sense and having the ability to think and research information that's needed to use to conquer my goals that's before me. My biggest business challenge, I believe, was my transition from the streets to corporate America. That was a big challenge to me because, you know, when you get accustomed to fast money and have to transition to some real work, that's a challenge. You know what I mean? That's a challenge because now it's about that grind, and now you're going to be tested as I was for the next 7 years in the music industry before I saw a profit. So that was a major challenge with a lot of temptation wrapped around it to go back. A big fuck it moment for me was when I had to use my street strength in corporate America to change the minds of those who was trying to fuck me. Yeah. You know, from there they could, you know, you can read in the book to get details on how I changed the fuck it moment to peace, a peaceful moment. One of the biggest mistakes I made in business was relying on someone else to do something that I asked them to do without double checking, making sure that it was done. And I go directly to Vanilla Ice. You know, Vanilla Ice was an artist that should have been mine. I should have reaped the reward from those 12 million or so albums that he sold, but I relied on another guy, my partner, actually, to sign that deal that I asked him to sign, and he didn't. One of the many things that I tell people is I'd rather have and not need than to need and not have. If I lost everything that I possess, own, or have material-wise, I'd do it all over again because I know the formula to success. And in Think and Grow Rich, I learned a lot in that. But in the art and science of respect, I shared a lot of those formulas. Like business and personal is two different things where I'm concerned. But, it's hard to, once you become a man of God, to not hold different values in different things, even where business is concerned. Like my business attitude was some things, I wasn't going to do because I felt like it would hinder my blessings. You know what I mean? So that's why I would tell a man, I'm not going to allow, my cheating you or whatnot to cut my blessings off. So it's certain things I wouldn't do. So there's a fine line between the two because, okay, there's a rated R thing that I was off into where music was concerned. I didn't feel like that had anything to do with my spirituality. It was an act. It was art, and one may call that, what's the word? Putting it where I wanted to be. You know what I mean? But there's a fine line. I'll just leave it like that. Speaking things into existence is very important. Everything I ever accomplished, I prayed for before it actually happened. So, I was speaking it into existence. And not only speaking it into existence, your work ethic to follow that you speak as equally important. If I could invite one person to dinner, it would be my sister. And she passed at the age of 12 years old. I wrote about it in my book. The reason why is our last conversation together was about a vacuum and a house. She wanted to buy my mother a vacuum. I wanted to buy my mother a house. At that dinner, I would like to celebrate me bringing her dream to reality as well as mine with my mother. I would definitely talk about I had no idea that would be our last night together, so I'm sure it would be a lot to talk about as far as, my accomplishments and different things like that, but that's still a sore spot in my heart to this day, not knowing that would be our last night together. Yeah, my study beyond music was my grandmother, my mother, my father, the people that was close to me. I didn't read about none of those other people. I observed a work ethic that existed before me. I observed poverty and the struggles, and that was enough to inspire me to want to break the poverty curse in my family. I mean, in my book, I wrote about watching O.J. Simpson as a kid because of the things he accomplished. So it was more of watching his house and man, I like to have that, the material things. But as far as studying an individual, never really happened. How I feel things can change in economics where communities are concerned is for like-minded individuals that's from those communities to come together first. You know what I mean? Definitely the ones that's successful, the ones that have made it. You know what I mean? It's important to not abandon the very community that helped shape and mold you and played a real interesting role in who you became. So to turn and walk away from that community is a major reason the community continues to suffer. In my community, Fifth Ward, I live by example. I built a recreation center, which consists of a full court basketball facility, a weight room, a computer room, a boxing gym. We do a lot of things such as Christmas, give away toys. On Thanksgiving, you know what I mean? We give away turkeys and food, feed the homeless. We doing things year round. It's a lifestyle with us, you know what I mean? And I think that's where respect really began. You know what I mean? When each of us that has been successful in that community come back and plant those kind of seeds, then we're doing our part. Like right here in Chicago, I think a major piece of being able to stop that violence is to release Larry Hoover. You know what I mean? Someone who has a voice. You know, someone who is respected in Chicago and around the world. You know, a lot of people don't want to hear that story. A lot of people feel like, you know, they unforgiving. You know what I mean? They feel like one can't evolve. You know, other words, you do something in your 20s, it's okay to punish you the rest of your life. But, you know, if that mentality, you know, is almost like a slave mentality. If that would leave, you know, from those in these high places where our communities, you know, speaking like of government and different things like that, that govern our communities, if that would change, I think a lot of this violence and different things like that can change. I feel that rappers can contribute. I feel that they should contribute and help uplift our communities. You know what I mean? They're a product of our communities, so, you know, they're not excluded. You know what I mean? I'm not excluded. You know, it's a family thing, and if we all come together and unite that way, it'll be respected even more where the youth is concerned. My biggest pet peeve is the systems that existed even before me. A lot of those systems are the business structures on this is the way it should be, which I went against all of them. You should be happy with this production deal, or you should be happy with this artist deal because this is the way, you know, it should be. So, you know, I was against them from day one. I'm against them right now. I was against it, you know, with my movement, even moving into publishing where the book thing is concerned. So those are things that I dislike. A lot of times, you know, artists and athletes, you know what I mean, of color, when the opportunity come before them of reaching and grabbing a significant amount of money, that's a lot of temptation for a person that never had anything. So, you know, it becomes real difficult to try and analyze the art and science behind what I'm giving up, you know, versus receiving. All you want to do is receive at that point. You know, when broke has been your neighbor all of your life, and then you have access at being able to grab $1 million, you know, that's a lot of temptation, and also it's a lot of it makes sense to a lot of people that never, you know, had any practice, had the opportunity to touch money. You know, myself, the only reason I didn't fall between that crack, you know what I mean, because it was extended to me over and over again. I had practice, you know what I mean. I was used to touching money. I knew the power of I don't want to say selling my soul, but I knew the power of not, you know, protecting my ass appropriately. Because I don't want to view it as short side. It's just that they ain't never had no money. You know what I mean? And if you ain't never had shit and then opportunity before you is to have, I don't know if that's considered short-sighted. I believe the reason is not more executives of color is because of the lack of leaderships and sacrifices that it takes to become a leader. First of all, I believe it's more followers than leaders. And in order to become a leader, you have to have like a certain stamina. You know what I mean? You have to have a special mind frame where you can deal with obstacles and the different things, challenges that's before you to reach, you know what I mean, that point of leadership. And, you know, a lot of people don't have the ability to be that. A lot of people want to be that, I'm sure, but, you know, it's certain requirements, ingredients that make up that type of individual. I think that crab in the bucket mentality exists in every genre of music. I think it's disguised differently. You know, it's wrapped in different gift wrap paper in other places versus, you know, hip hop. And hip hop is almost like the hood. You know what I mean? It's the hood, and then you have hip hop, and you have a lot of the same principles because you're dealing with a lot of the same people. So, you know, that's the difference that I see where the two are concerned.